We now present For the Record.
Just ahead, we remember 9/11 by looking at its impact in our schools. Plus, our investigation into a local school district and the ways a former student says they did not protect her education after an assault.
I never would have expected her to do that.
But first, major divisions among Dane County's leaders exposed by a crisis in staffing. Welcome to For the Record. I'm Naomi Coles. We're covering rising tensions this week between key Dane County department heads and a county board that saw about a third of its members turn over in the spring election this year. In July, the now former head of the county's Human Services Department wrote in a fiery resignation letter that the board was showing, quote, inherent mistrust and disrespect towards county managers. Now, the head of the county-run nursing home sat down with me this week with similar complaints. It stemmed from a recent county vote to punt on a decision that would have allowed the short-staffed home to bring in additional travel nurses. They cited a need to discuss further with employee groups. Now, County Board Chair Patrick Miles joins me now in studio to respond to all this. I know we have some tough topics to get through. I'm grateful for you to come in.
Happy to be here.
So as you know, I visited the home this week. I talked to Administrator Bill Brotzman. He tells me they're nearing a staffing crisis. They're considering closing off some services while the board has punted on allowing him to get the agency nurses that he needs. I do want to roll you a clip so we can listen to that before we start with the response.
Okay.
It's not uncommon to have someone work 80 hours of regular time and 40 hours of overtime in a pay period. It's very unfortunate that some members of the county board have still made it clear that they don't trust our leadership team here and the managers to make the proper decisions. And instead, they've asked that union officials insert themselves into our operational decisions. These individuals haven't even set foot in our building, ever. And they're being asked to come in and provide us guidance on our operational decisions and to look at other matters to try to solve the nationwide staffing crisis that we're looking at.
These are very strong words from a key county department head. What's your response?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge I respect and appreciate the hard work our managers and department heads do throughout county government, including Mr. Brotzman. I do not agree with his characterization that that the county board taking its role as, especially in this case, the Health and Human Needs Committee, exercising its role and obligation as the committee of oversight over the department to make sure that we are carrying out our priorities and that the decisions being made are appropriate and responsive to taxpayers as well. Asking those questions about how things are going to be done. So, for example, in this specific case, the idea of contracting for private service for temporary nursing staffing would span over a period of 13 weeks at the cost of $330,000. The committee reasonably asked questions about what happens at the end of 13 weeks. It's a lot of money. It's 4 nurses. I think the committee and I, as chair of the board, recognize that not only in this department, but in a number of departments, we are facing staffing shortages. On the labor side, he referenced employee group representatives coming in, and we have a long history in Dane County of appreciation and respect for the democratic collaborative process that employee representation brings. And I don't believe for a minute that employee group representatives were coming in and trying to tell him how to do his job. They were supporting nurses and had some concerns. They see the potential of a nursing service come in that has a different scheduling technique and so forth. They reasonably are asking questions like, well, is there something we can be doing with our schedules to adjust?
Is it concerning, though, that we now have a department head, Sean Tessman, in her resignation several weeks ago now a division administrator, echoing similar concerns? What Brotzman told me was He's willing to work with employee groups when it comes to employee-centered rights, advocating for, nurses, CNAs within his division. But he feels, and these are very similar concerns shared by Director Tessman in her resignation letter, that they are interfering with operational, where they are the subject matter experts, and employee groups are interfering with operational things where, at least according to these two people, they don't feel they were the best position to contribute to that decision.
All right, so I've been on the county board since 2006, and my experience over those years has been that there's been very good communication between management and employees, and between executive branch and county board. And in recent years, that seems to have deteriorated. And so in situations like this, where there's some significant decisions being made that affect employees, and there hasn't been communication. And I think more than anything, that is what employees are seeking, is communication, opportunity for input, and that needs to be done earlier. I mean, the fact that in this situation, the management there is considering freezing intake and closing off portions because the committee chose to postpone to their next meeting 2-3 weeks. It shouldn't have gone that long before they're bringing a big decision like that to the committee to consider.
The threat has been made, or the warning has been said that Brotzman told me he's considering stopping intakes and closing down areas of the nursing home. Does that potentially, is that causing county board members to reconsider this delay in allowing agency nurses to come in?
Whether we're talking about closing portions of the facility, or just the staffing shortages alone is a serious concern. I mean, we're dealing with a sensitive, vulnerable population. I think we all acknowledge that. However, the county board is simply doing its job of oversight, seeking transparency and accountability. And it seems in recent years there's been a deterioration or less of an appreciation of that, so that here we have a situation where at the 11th hour they're bringing this contract for consideration, and to me that sends a message that they think the county board is simply performing a ministerial act. We're not.
This seems to be a concerning trend in terms of high-level county employees, county staff members raising these types of concerns. What happens if more people leave? Now, to be clear, Brotzman told me in our interview he does not plan. This is not a threat of resignation. He's not at that point yet. But this is now two going publicly on the record about this. There could be others. What does the county board do to stave off departures in the future?
I'm an open door. I have an open door. I'm happy, and frankly, the vast majority of my interactions with department heads has been very positive. It seems that there have been decision points brought to committees and to the board very late in the process, with this expectation that the board is just going to rubber stamp. And I'm not going to make any apologies for us doing our job.
I think we'll close on that note. Patrick, I appreciate you being willing to come in here to take on these tough issues, and I appreciate your perspective. When we come back, a victim says she was robbed of her Title IX rights in a small Rock County school district. Our investigation is just after the break.